Transaction is the entire premise. The narrator is basically saying, I need a behavioral change agent, and I will compensate you handsomely for the emotional labor of stabilizing me.
And this is all reinforced when he talks about his past relationships, saying he's never been with anyone that's influential. So the fixer has to be this definitive, influential upgrade that guarantees a different outcome. So the destination is obvious. The partner's main function is to anchor the narrator to a stable, traditional future. He's hoping to see a marriage and a few kids. The streets are chaos. The fixer is the path to domesticity.
The entire utility function of this partner is wrapped up in that one goal. Stabilize the narrator enough to get that traditionally aspirational life, the family unit.
But this is where the narrator's swagger just completely collapses. Despite all the promises of status and money, they have this deep, deep insecurity about the authenticity of the love they're looking for. This is where the self-awareness really peaks.
It's a pivotal psychological move. The narrator gets that by offering such high-stakes cash, fame, status, they risk inviting the exact same transactional behavior in return, which then raises the critical question. Will they ever be loved for who they are, separate from what they provide?
Right. The core insecurity is the feel that a day you'll only want me for the cash and fame.
And that fear leads directly to what is, I think, the most insightful line in the entire piece, the real litmus test for genuine affection. But would you miss me, or would you miss me, fix me?
Wow. Let's just sit with that for a second, because that lyric just encapsulates the entire conflict. What's the difference between those two kinds of missing?
The difference is profound. To miss me is to yearn for the person themselves, their personality, their presence, their fundamental worth. That is authentic love. To miss me, fix me. Well, that means the partner is mostly mourning the loss of their function, the loss of the project, the loss of the money, the loss of the status. He's desperate to confirm that his worth exists outside of his utility, either as a benefactor or as, a project to be reformed.
So it's his attempt to get validation that his inherent self, even the toxic parts of it, is actually valued, not just his capacity to be healed or to pay for a better life.
And the lyrics give us some context for why this insecurity is so deep. It's linked back to the lack of a proper relationship blueprint. The narrator explains that the reason they never had a teacher learn the lesson that the grass ain't always greener is because my parents went together.
Wait, okay, that feels like a slight misinterpretation, doesn't it? If his parents stayed together, wouldn't that imply stability?
That's the subtlety of it, and we have to explore that. The fact that the parents went together could suggest a lack of active teaching, a lack of visible struggle or resolution, or even just explaining why relationships work or fail. It might imply he just witnessed a default setting, not an earned lesson. He wasn't taught the process of navigating difficulty. He just saw the outcome. And this lack of a clear relationship teacher just reinforces why he's relying on trial and error in these transactional relationships now.
So he doesn't have the internal tools to fix himself or build a stable partnership, which explains exactly why he's outsourcing the entire foundation of his future to this one on-brand person. The stakes for this decision then feel astronomically high.
Well, they absolutely do. And he summarizes the weight of it all perfectly when he says, we have issues, it's hard to forgive and forget, but I hope we don't make no decisions we live to regret.
Yeah.
That line just reveals this immense anxiety under the whole thing. This isn't just about finding a date. It's framed as this life-altering choice that has to save him from a future of just continuous toxic relapse.
So when we synthesize all this, what we have is a lyrical self-portrait that maps every single external expectation onto an internal failure. The vision he has is undeniably glamorous, picture perfect, I could pause on the big screen, but that image is only sustainable as long as that fragile foundation holds, long as I have somebody here to fix me.
The overarching conflict we've been analyzing is that trade-off between the intense desire for stability and the complete avoidance of self-reliance. The narrator details all the chaos, the toxic behavior, the loneliness, and then explicitly defines the only solution as external. He's searching for redemption by proxy.
And even in this profoundly self-centered pursuit, there's that small gesture, maybe of dignity, toward a former partner, where he mentions, at least I gave you closure. It suggests, I don't know, a fleeting attempt to process the wreckage he caused.
It's a moment of accountability, perhaps, but it's one that's very quickly subsumed by the primary mission of finding the next fix. It's just a complicated piece, balancing that accountability with, outright dependency.
It certainly is. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, you mentioned an interesting layer of self-improvement the narrator claims to have tried.
Yes. The narrator specifically says they were trying to expand their life. The line is, Been around the world, I was trying to expand.
Mm-hmm.
So they pursued geographical expansion, global experience as a form of personal growth, maybe hoping that distance would solve the internal problem.
But the entire narrative, everything we've talked about, it hinges on finding someone to make him leave the streets.
And that's the critical takeaway. If you invest so heavily in finding an external fixer, a person whose function is to provide the stability you lack, we're left asking you, the listener, this provocative thought. When you travel the world looking for expansion, but the foundation of your change is still contingent on another person's intervention, does that geographical movement really count as personal growth if your internal compass is still fundamentally broken?
Is world expansion just a distraction if the core behavior remains dependent on an external fix? That question really speaks to the cost of seeking external redemption. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complex psychology of the Fix Me narrative. We hope you feel thoroughly informed.